All right. Good afternoon. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici pour ma première visite en Chine en tant que Premier ministre. Et je tiens tout d'abord à remercier le président Xi Jinping et le Premier ministre Li pour leur hospitalité qu'ils nous ont témoignée ici à Beijing. It has been a historic and productive 2 days during which myself and fellow ministers have had the opportunity to meet with President Xi, Premier Li, Chairman Zhao, as well as business leaders across a number of key sectors. And I am very pleased to announce that we have made significant progress in a number of key areas. Stepping back, it's been 8 years since a Canadian Prime Minister visited China. And in that time, the world has changed dramatically. The technological revolution and the energy transition are accelerating at an unprecedented pace. The global trading system is undergoing a fundamental.
Canada just signed the deal Donald Trump feared most. Tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles have been slashed to just 6.1%. Chinese EV imports have been formally approved, with nearly 49,000 vehicles cleared. Canola tariffs have collapsed from a crushing 84% to 15%. And Canadians will now be able to travel to China visa-free. This was announced today by Prime Minister Mark Carney following his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This wasn't routine diplomacy. It was a strategic shockwave, and for Trump, a worst-case scenario. Let's be clear about what happened today, because none of this was sudden or accidental. Here at Capital Insight, we've been saying for more than a week that this visit to China wasn't about ceremony or optics. Something structural was being built behind the scenes. Today confirmed it. After meeting with President Xi, Carney announced a full trade reset with China, built around 3 pillars: electric vehicles, agriculture, especially canola, and long-term industrial investment inside Canada. On EVs, the shift is dramatic. Chinese electric vehicle tariffs are now down to 6.1%, and both governments confirmed expectations that within 3 years, groundwork will be laid for EV manufacturing in Canada itself, not permanent imports, but production on Canadian soil. At the same time, canola tariffs that had been suffocating farmers at 84% have been cut to 15%. That's not diplomatic language or symbolic relief. That's real market access restored. Add visa-free travel for Canadians, and this becomes a reset that reaches far beyond trade headlines. This changes Canada's position almost overnight. If Chinese EVs are manufactured in Canada, particularly in Ontario, that means Canadian jobs, Canadian supply chains, and Canadian control over pricing. Vehicles priced around $35,000 built domestically. Here's the part Trump understands better than anyone else: those vehicles would sit right next to the U.S. border.
Canada can thrive in a new system, but to do so, we must be ambitious. We must work at speed and scale to find new partners, to diversify our trade, and attract unprecedented levels of investment in our country. And we must be pragmatic. That means we have to understand the differences between Canada and other countries, and then focus our efforts to work together where we're aligned. And it's with this approach that Canada is forging a new strategic partnership with China.
Competitive, affordable, legally produced inside a G7 economy. This directly undercuts Trump's strategy of blocking Chinese EVs while simultaneously pressuring Canada's auto sector. With one move, Canada sidestepped both threats, but EVs are only part of the story. The real shift is leverage. For months, Canadian farmers paid the price for geopolitical retaliation they didn't create. Canola tariffs devastated exports, and Western Canada absorbed the damage while Ottawa had limited room to maneuver. That ended today. Slashing tariffs to 15% puts billions back on the table and lifts political pressure across Canada's agricultural heartland. This wasn't a side issue. It was a core demand, and Canada got it. Then there was the announcement that barely grabbed headlines: visa, free travel. It may sound minor compared to EVs and canola, but it isn't. Visa-free access accelerates business deals, boosts tourism immediately, removes friction for universities, conferences, and trade missions. It also works both ways. Chinese tourists, investors, and students now see Canada as open and accessible again after years of freeze. This is how relationships normalize. And once people start moving, deals follow. This is not Canada choosing China over the United States. That framing is lazy and misleading.
China is the world's second largest economy. It contributes 1/3 to global growth. It's our second largest trading partner and our third largest investor. Two-way trade between our countries amounts to nearly $120 billion a year. There are 400,000 careers across Canada. Farmers in the prairies, manufacturers and engineers in Ontario and Quebec, fish harvesters in Atlantic Canada and British Columbia, they are all supported by trade with China. $20 billion in wages are earned each year by Canadians because of our existing trade relationship.
What Canada is doing is ending dependency. Trump's leverage worked because Canada had limited alternatives. Auto threats worked, tariffs worked, pressure worked. This deal breaks that cycle. Factories are planned, investments scheduled, and supply chains start shifting. Those moves don't quietly reverse. Markets adapt, fades. Make no mistake, this deal doesn't just upset Trump. It exposes his failure. For decades, Canada was one of America's most reliable economic partners, with deeply integrated industries and trust built over generations. Trump dismantled that because Canada changed, but because he did. He chose threats over cooperation and humiliation over negotiation. This deal with China didn't come out of nowhere. It was forced into existence by his own actions. That's why this hits so hard. This isn't just competition, it's replacement. Chinese EV manufacturing in Canada undermines Trump's vision of a sealed-off North American auto industry. Canola relief stabilizes Canadian politics without U.S. involvement. Visa-free travel deepens ties Washington no longer controls. Trump didn't lose leverage because Canada betrayed him. He lost it because he burned it. The deal is signed. That part is done. Comes next is how the United States responds. Trade talks no longer exist in isolation. Auto policy just got more complicated. Retaliation now carries higher risk. Trump has to decide whether he escalates or adapts, and that choice will shape Canada-U.S. relations for years. If you want clear, detail-first analysis when real power moves happen, subscribe to Capital Insight. And tell me this, did Canada just secure its economic future, or did it trigger Trump's next retaliation?